At the start of the movie, we see a pub run by a woman named Connie. She is busy serving drinks to customers. Among them is a man named Miguel, who secretly takes pictures of a couple. The man in the couple notices and gets angry.
I'm gonna need you to give me that camera.
No.
He walks up to Miguel and tells him to delete the photos. But instead of obeying, Miguel smirks and tells him that he is a private investigator. He was hired to find proof of the man's affair. The biggest shock comes when Miguel reveals that the man's own wife hired him and now plans to divorce him. The man panics because his wife owns the company he depends on. If she leaves him, he will lose everything. Miguel ignores him and steps outside, where he sees a group of men surrounding a girl. They clearly want to harass her. This makes Miguel furious, and he pulls out a gun to scare them away. The girl is extremely thankful to him.
That's quite impressive.
The story then jumps 5 years ahead. Miguel meets his friend, Detective Mac, and they talk about a series of murders happening in town. Mac tells him that a man named John was recently killed and the police are still investigating. But strangely, John's lawyer is trying to close the case. Miguel finds this suspicious because he already knew about the recent murders. While they talk, a mysterious person in the pub listens carefully to their conversation. Later, as Miguel prepares to go home, he realizes someone is following him. He turns around to confront them, but before he can react, the person attacks him hard. To his shock, the attacker is a woman. She kills him and takes his belongings. The twist? She is the very killer Miguel was supposed to investigate. Next, we meet a woman named Cassie, who is passed out drunk. Suddenly, she gets a call from Detective Mac, who gives her heartbreaking news: her teacher has been murdered. This crushes Cassie because Miguel wasn't just her teacher, he was like a father to her. It turns out Cassie is the same girl Miguel had saved outside the pub 5 years ago. As grief takes over, memories of Miguel taking care of her fill her mind. Determined to get justice, she rushes to the police station. Cassie wants to handle the case legally, so Detective Mac gives her all the details. He tells her that many people have been murdered recently, and one of the victims was killed in the exact same way as Miguel. Before he can say more, a lawyer named Victor arrives. Victor wants the case closed, but Mac refuses. He tells Victor that no matter how powerful he is, the investigation won't stop, especially now that Cassie is taking over Miguel's case. Hearing this, Victor gets angry and storms out. Outside, a private investigator named Wells is already waiting for Victor. Victor orders her to find out everything about Cassie. He is desperate to shut the case down before it causes problems for him and others. Back at the police station, Mac explains to Cassie that Victor is a well-known lawyer who often protects rich and corrupt people. This time, he seems to be covering for criminals again. But the strange thing is that Victor is trying to protect the very killer who murdered his own client. This means Victor is hiding something. Cassie and Mac then go to Miguel's apartment to look for clues. They search everywhere but find nothing important. However, Cassie realizes that the killer must have come here after murdering Miguel. Frustrated, they leave. But they don't know that the killer has already stolen Cassie's address from Miguel's phone. Now, she is planning to go after Cassie. Meanwhile, Cassie and Mac visit the house of a rich man who was recently killed. His name was John, the same man Miguel was investigating before he died. Cassie realizes that John and Miguel were probably killed by the same person. She and Mac try to enter the house, but 3 security guards stop them, saying they need a warrant. It's clear that Victor hired these men to block the investigation. Cassie and Mac get furious and beat up the guards before leaving.
How mighty. Alert whoever hired you.
Meanwhile, Wallace collects all the information about Cassie and hands it over to Victor. She explains that 5 years ago, Cassie's life completely changed. Back then, Miguel had saved her, and from that moment on, she stayed close to him. To her, he was more than just a teacher, he was like a father. Now, after his death, she is determined to get revenge no matter what. But Victor isn't worried. He believes Cassie is no real threat and can be dealt with anytime. Cassie, however, refuses to back down. She decides to secretly enter John's house, hoping to find clues. As she moves carefully, she remembers a conversation with Miguel from the past. He had once told her that he worked as an Interpol agent for 26 years.
I was in the Interpol for 26 years.
That day, Cassie had felt proud and inspired, wanting to follow in his footsteps. Now, in the present, she manages to sneak past the guards and get inside the house. She searches every corner but doesn't find anything unusual. Just when she is about to leave, she notices a small bloodstain on the wall. Looking closer, she realizes there is a hidden door. Opening it, she discovers a secret room. The sight inside shocks her. Chains hang from the walls, and it's clear that someone had been kept there and tortured. She quickly starts taking pictures for evidence. Before she can leave, Jamie suddenly appears, pointing a gun at her. She reveals that she was once locked in this very room, suffering for 5 years before she finally escaped. Cassie is more focused on finding out about Miguel's death. Jamie admits to killing him but also expresses regret.
Sorry about your friend. Someone did something to us that...
Before she can say anything more, police sirens are heard in the distance. Using the distraction, Jamie escapes, leaving Cassie with an unsettling realization. Jamie is not just a murderer, she is seeking revenge. Outside, Victor arrives and argues with the police, trying to stop them from searching the house without a warrant.
What are you doing in my house? No business inside my house.
But Cassie has already gathered what she needed. Seeing Victor's reaction when she mentions Jamie's name, she realizes he is afraid. This confirms her suspicion. Victor and his associates must have done something terrible to Jamie, and now she is coming for them. Later, at a luxurious mansion, Victor meets with his powerful bosses, Dottie and Edgar. He warns them that Jamie and Cassie working together could bring everything crashing down. Without hesitation, Dottie decides that both women must be eliminated immediately. Wallace, who has been working for them all this time, starts feeling uneasy. She no longer wants to be involved in their crimes. Meanwhile, Cassie receives a call from Miguel's phone. Realizing it must be Jamie, she picks up. Jamie explains her past, revealing that she was an orphan who ran away from her abusive adoptive parents, only to fall into even worse hands. A rich couple, Dottie and Edgar, found her but didn't help her. Instead, they used her for their twisted pleasure, treating her like an object rather than a person. After some time, they got bored of her and sold her to their friend, John. But John turned out to be even crueler than them. He locked her in a room and, along with his wealthy associates, tormented her for years. Now, she is back to take revenge. One by one, she plans to eliminate them all, John, Edgar, Dottie, and the rest of their partners. Hearing this, Cassie feels a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and determination. She immediately rushes to Detective Mac and tells him everything. But instead of supporting her, Mac is furious that she has been communicating with Jamie all along. Cassie doesn't care about his anger. To her, Jamie is not just a criminal, she is someone who has suffered terribly and is now seeking justice in her own way. Meanwhile, Dottie and Edgar, unaware of what's coming, continue with their dark plans. They are impatient and want more victims. It's clear that they are planning to kidnap more children. But Victor warns them that things are getting too dangerous. With both the police and Jamie after them, their safest option is to leave the country. Before they can react, something suddenly falls in front of them. It's a severed head. Dottie and Edgar freeze in terror. They finally realize, Jamie has already started her revenge. The severed head belongs to their partner, Marty. Jamie has clearly killed him as a warning, intending to fill their hearts with fear. Meanwhile, Cassie still hasn't found strong evidence against them, so she takes a risk and hacks into Victor's system. There, she discovers a folder labeled VAS, which contains records of multiple payments. It becomes clear that Victor has been using this information to blackmail Wallace into working for him. This explains why she has been helping them all along. Cassie also finds a blueprint named Playground, a secret location where wealthy men hold their disturbing gatherings. Dottie and Edgar use this place to showcase their victims. Furious at this discovery, Cassie rushes toward Playground, determined to stop them. However, before she can leave, Victor's men arrive to eliminate her. In self-defense, she manages to take down one of them, but the other overpowers her. Just when he is about to finish her off, Jamie arrives and brutally attacks him with a wrench. Cassie, having lost consciousness, is taken back to Jamie's place, where she receives treatment for her wounds. When she wakes up, Jamie assures her that she never intended to hurt innocent people. She admits that killing Miguel was a terrible mistake, she had wrongly assumed he was on the side of her tormentors. Now, she promises that once her revenge is complete, she will surrender, allowing Cassie to decide her fate. This revelation deeply saddens Cassie, knowing that her mentor died due to a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, Wallace decides to flee the city, but before she can escape, Cassie confronts her. Seeing Cassie's bloodied hands, Wallace panics and confesses everything. She admits that for years, she was forced to assist these powerful criminals who abducted and abused children. She insists that she never wanted to be part of it but was blackmailed into obeying them. Cassie demands more details about the organization, and Wallace reveals that their group is called Playhouse. Although she doesn't know all the members, she provides Cassie with crucial information about the leaders, Dottie and Edgar. After revealing everything, Wallace is arrested. During interrogation, she fully exposes Victor's crimes, giving the police enough evidence to go after him. Meanwhile, Dottie and Edgar, unaware of what's happening, are still searching for new victims. But Jamie has been watching them closely. As soon as she gets the chance, she attacks Edgar. However, Dottie proves to be just as ruthless. She sprays a chemical into Jamie's eyes, causing intense pain. While Jamie is blinded and struggling, Dottie knocks her unconscious and, without hesitation, abandons her own husband and escapes. At the same time, the police are ready to arrest Victor. But just as they prepare to move in, they receive reports of the attack on Edgar. The team splits, one group goes after Victor, while the other heads toward Edgar. Victor refuses to surrender, but the detective holds him at gunpoint and successfully arrests him. Meanwhile, the second police team finds Edgar, who is still alive despite his injuries. Cassie immediately demands to know where Dottie and Jamie are, but Edgar simply mocks her. He reveals that Jamie has been captured and is about to face unimaginable suffering. He also warns that Dottie is the most sadistic of them all. And he is right. Dottie has taken Jamie to the playhouse, where she begins torturing her without mercy. Jamie screams in pain, but Dottie takes pleasure in her suffering. However, fate is on Jamie's side. In a sudden turn of events, one of her hands comes loose. Seizing the opportunity, she lunges at Dottie and bites down hard on her neck. But Jamie's hatred runs too deep to stop there. She keeps attacking until Dottie dies on the spot. With this, Jamie finally gets her revenge. Soon after, Cassie arrives and is devastated to see Jamie in such a broken state. She tries to help her, but Jamie refuses. She insists that her purpose is complete. She has avenged her suffering. She then reminds Cassie that she is responsible for Miguel's death, so if Cassie truly wants justice, she should take revenge now. But Cassie refuses to kill her. Seeing no other way, Jamie takes Cassie's gun, points it at herself, and pulls the trigger, choosing to end her own life. In the final scene, Cassie is seen visiting Jamie's grave. Honoring Jamie's fight, she vows to track down the remaining members of Edgar and Dottie's network and ensure they face justice. And with that, the movie comes to an end.
Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.